So, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unpacking Possibility. I'm your host, Traci Stein, as always. I'm so happy to be here with you. And today's going to be focused on manifesting. Now, I know I've spoken about that before, but today's going to be an update on what I have learned about the necessary ingredients, fine-tuning them for successful manifesting, but also how to still benefit from the manifesting missteps that we all make. And I also will tell you about two manifesting audio programs I still use the most. A little preview. One is mine and one isn't. And I still use them somewhat regularly, and I do think they make a difference. And we'll talk about a principle that can be really helpful with manifesting the things you really want to attract to you and also being open to them. So let's get going. Just a little recap. I've said this before in my newsletter and in other podcasts, my own and other people's. I feel like I've manifested lots of great things. So here's just a few examples. A lot of you know by now that my dog, Loretta the Bean, made her transition to the next world almost 2 months ago. And that has still been very hard to sit with. But, you know, there were so many times when Loretta was so sick and we were so close to losing her. And honestly, I would say it was a miracle that she made it. I really think in the last year and a half, 2 years, we had so many times like that. This was an incredible gift. Loretta was an incredible gift, but being able to have her with us for as long as we did, I honestly think is nothing short of miraculous. And it's something very specifically we put out there. And that involved doing a lot of manifesting and healing type of guided imagery, certainly praying on her behalf. I don't think the universe always gives us what we think we want and need, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But I think it's really important for us to look at the times in our lives when we have gotten something and felt so blessed and so fortunate. Gratitude is such an important ingredient in manifesting. And also understanding that I don't think the universe is a giant gumball machine. I think we get a lot out of it. But I don't think it's something under what a psychologist would say is under our omnipotent control or our ability to just control everything in our lives as we want to. That's just not how it works. And you know what? That's probably for the best overall. But there are so many things that we say, oh my God, I can't believe how fortunate I am. Pay attention to those things. Other things I've manifested that I'm extremely grateful for, too many to name here, but the Hay House contract, the fact that all of my audio programs that I did with Health Journeys and ones that I did independently are with Hay House, and that's been incredible. And it's beyond what I ever thought I could have happen. It's brought my work to a lot of people who might not have seen it otherwise. And that's an example of this one principle we'll talk about more in a little bit. The principle of putting it out there for what you want, but then leaving room for this, it's equivalent or better, right? Because this was even better than I thought I could hope for. My early career working in integrative medicine, that gave me exposure to a lot of incredible things. It taught me what I didn't know. It taught me what I needed to learn. And it was just really overall a really unique experience, and one that on paper I would not have thought I would be eligible for. So there are several houses that we have had, things that everybody said didn't exist or weren't possible. And I know I've talked about that before. Our cat Sebastian got out and got lost 2 years ago and was gone for 2 days. I was sleeping outside in weather that was like in the 50-degree range. So worried about him. And we live in an area where there are lots of things that can harm or end a cat. And thank God he came back 2 days later, and I will never stop being grateful for that. Again, it's not about the universe always giving us everything we want or in the way we want it, but there are so many things that you too have probably put out there and been like, wow, I'm so fortunate. I can't believe I met this person or got this job or had this opportunity or resolved this thing in this relationship, right? It doesn't matter whether it's something somebody else would say, wow, that's amazing. It matters what it is to you. So part of the reason why I'm doing this episode today is the 1-year anniversary of something great happening for me and my husband that we very explicitly manifested. And whatever you think I'm going to talk about probably isn't that. Maybe it is. But this marks the 1-year anniversary of us getting our offer on a house accepted. And it was something that brought relief to a 3.5, 4-year journey of searching for a home that would be a great fit. And for some of you, you'll say, well, that's not that big a deal. People get new places, new homes all the time. But anybody who's been looking over the last few years has known that it is like dog eat dog out there. I hate that expression. I shouldn't have used that, but you know what I mean. It's super competitive. Places are selling fast. They're selling for way over asking price, probably way over what they're worth. It's an incredibly stressful process. Most people know what I'm talking about because whether you've been looking for a place or someone you know has, you've probably heard that. But it's been a crazy 3.5, 4 years. I won't go into excruciating detail, but we had a really specific and unusual wish list with, it might be like 10 items that you wouldn't expect to find all together in the same place. We had a really specific checklist. It was a very emotional checklist. And I'm bringing this up because all of us manifest things every day, including things we do not want, or including manifesting things in a way that's different from what we hoped for. And a lot of it is due to the movie in our mind that tells us what we feel we deserve and feel we can access. And it's so hard. I want to just acknowledge it's so hard to shift out of that movie and feel optimistic and grateful for something that hasn't yet happened when the external conditions seem difficult, like I just mentioned, a really difficult housing market, and a weird and hard to find checklist of things we wanted. But when the internal conditions are ones that make it really hard to be grateful and optimistic and keep on trucking when we've had failure after failure in our efforts, right? So, you know how it is when you're really stressed about something or you feel like you need to do something in a hurry. The clock is running out. Look at the way we talk about things, right? But it's really important for us to find a way to shift into what feels possible and make the seemingly impossible possible. I really think that is such a key aspect to manifesting. And again, when you're stressed, when everybody's telling you something isn't going to happen, and when you felt like everywhere you've turned, you've hit a dead end, it's so hard. But without being able to shift into the space of how great is this, or even just how great would this be, I really feel like what we wind up doing is we still manifest. We just manifest the things that we kind of don't want. Our hopes and fears, I think, are both very powerful attractants. And I know that I've talked about hypnosis and self-hypnosis and everyday trances quite a lot, but it's because it's true for every single person, right? And our old scripts, our scripts formed in childhood about what's possible for us or not, or what we deserve or what we don't, or how the world works, even when we know better and our mature selves say, oh, well, I've had plenty of examples where things have been different from that old script. The old script is still kind of running in the background. It's something that takes a while to change. So basically what happened is we decided to sell a house that in part, we really loved a lot of things about it, but there were a lot of practical challenges and things that when we kept thinking about the future, it became clearer and clearer it wasn't going to be the right fit for us going forward. But it wasn't something that we felt great and excited to do. We put it out there to attract somebody who would, meet a certain price. And we had a few people come along and offer close enough or more. We had specific criteria for how we wanted this deal to go down because we needed time to find another place. And we were so fortunate to get that. And these things actually happened so close in time to us putting out these specific wishes. But it was still stressful. We were not happy because ideally, or maybe not ideally, but there was a part of us that really did not want to make a decision that I can honestly say was a good decision looking back. But it felt like so many things were just so stressful. We were selling and moving at the height of COVID. There was nothing that felt really easy and joyful about this process. And as we got within about a month or 6 weeks of having to get out of our home, we still hadn't found another one. And so this was a few years ago. We wound up thankfully coming across another home that, checked a lot of boxes and that most people would say was a great house and a great property. And that's true. But I believe that our fears about what we could and couldn't find, especially in a really short time frame, were borne out. I feel like the universe said, hey, I'm going to give you these things you actually think maybe you could get. And honestly, we were lucky because we got things beyond what we thought we could get, which is great. But we did not believe we could find something with the specific things we were looking for. And honestly, we didn't. And we moved into that house and we had plenty of friends and family say it's a great place. You should be happy here. We weren't. We felt restless the whole time. And we tried doing things here and there and we went through the motions of trying to figure out how we could maybe update the house or do things to make it check more of the boxes we wanted to check. But it just never felt like the right fit. And so we knew pretty early on that unfortunately it was going to have to be a temporary place. And honestly, we really felt that our manifesting had failed. Or more specifically, that we had pulled in things that we thought maybe we could get, but weren't the right fit. And we failed to pull in the things we thought we had to get. And so, again, listen, we're so lucky to have found what we did get. And we are so fortunate to have friends and family who were understanding and supportive during our kind of miserableness during this 2.5-year journey of continuing to search for something that checked these boxes. And we're so fortunate, we know, to have had a roof over our heads. And honestly, what for all intents and purposes was a great place. Most people would have said that. But you know how it is. It's like being set up on a date by your friends and everybody's saying, you should love this person because they're so great and they check all these boxes, but it just doesn't feel right. And you can feel guilty or like something's wrong with you for not being able to joyfully embrace what's in front of you. And that's how we felt. So fast forward, we really wanted to attract somebody to buy that house. And we did, out of the blue, within days. The way this came about is a mutual friend told us that this other family was looking for a new house in the neighborhood. And honestly, it could not have worked out better. What I had put out there specifically was that somebody would come along who would love the house for what it is, not for what it isn't, that it would be the right fit for them, and that they would be happy and joyful, and it would be the right place for the right people. They would meet our price and would work with our time frame because, again, we still had to find another place. So that happened. Now, fast forward, we had another 6 months or so to find the quote right place. And again, that's going to be different for each person. But, my husband and I still held on to these feelings that things wouldn't work out because we must have gone to 50 open houses. We went to see a whole bunch of other places. We sent letters to 10 or 12 people in our neighborhood. We were on Zillow constantly. And if you've been looking for a place, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And each time we got more discouraged. Everything was overpriced. Everything needed a ton of work. Things just felt wrong when we walked into them. And they didn't contain more than one or two of the items on our really must-have checklist. One of them was I really wanted to make sure Zelda, our dog, was able to walk every day and see her friends because she has friends in our neighborhood. And some people won't get that, but Zelda's our baby. And it was so important that she still be able to see her friends pretty easily, right? Other things like having a first floor bedroom with a bathroom. And, maybe that's less common nowadays than it used to be. But so anyway, every door seemed to be shut. Most people didn't even respond to our letters in our neighborhood. The one person who did ask for a price that we thought was outrageous for the condition the house was in, even though it was otherwise a great place. Another neighbor very politely said, no, we're not thinking of selling. Okay, fine. So now we're getting down to the wire. We have 2 months before we need to get out of our second place. And we have reached out to this one person who never responds to us. We had a neighbor who knew her reach out twice, and for whatever reason, she didn't respond. The day before, we're this is our absolute deadline. We must pick a place to live or we're not going to have a place to live. We both kept feeling it just seems like we're supposed to be in this particular house, which we're actually in now. And what shifted for us in the week or so before is that my husband started envisioning himself joyfully and with gratitude walking into and living in this house, and that it worked out well for everybody, the owner, for us, and so forth. Now, my approach was a little bit different. We had both been writing down our kind of wish lists to the universe and doing our rituals and meditations to attract the right thing. Mine was something like this place, which checks a lot of boxes, but this its equivalent or better. And you may have heard me use that phrase before. And the thing with that is that oftentimes the universe knows, I believe, what is good for us or will make us happy or it's important for us beyond what we can conceive of. And I want you to think about this, its equivalent or better like this. This is just kind of an aside here, but it's an important one. Imagine you're in a relationship with somebody and it doesn't work out. Either they leave you and it's done, or you decide you need to end it and it's done. Even if you might still love that person, you can look forward into the future in a way and say, I don't think this is going to be good for me long term. You can still have longing. You can still have grief. You can still have a part of you that says, if I could go back in time, I would do it differently. You can still have a part of you that says, I cannot accept somebody else because this is what I know of when I think of love and relationships and partnership and so forth, right? But as long as you hold on to that idea with a vice grip, maybe that person will come back to you. That happens. But as long as you cling to that, you are shutting out every other possible person, every other opportunity for love and happiness. And that's the whole idea with infusing your manifesting with the phrase, this, it's equivalent or better. I am asking for these 20 things. I'm imagining that I have them already, but I'm also open to the fact that how this winds up manifesting might be different from anything I can imagine now, and it may be just as great or even better. That's kind of the whole point, and that's what I was infusing my own manifesting with. So fast forward, today, September 18th, is when I'm recording this, is the day that we heard back that this person who, on paper, I could see why would not have wanted to sell this place, but not only decided to, but accepted our offer. They gave a counter, we accepted, and that set this in motion. And it's beyond just getting this place, because we're very happy here, even though, like most places, it has a to-do list of things that we want to do, a to-do list of things that really have to be done. This is not a place that has no things that need to be updated or whatever, that or repaired. It's not, quote, perfect, but it feels great to be here. I feel like I'm home, and I haven't had that feeling in a few years. And I can't tell you how that turns down the volume on my daily stress. But if you've ever been looking for a place, you know what I'm talking about. And I want to just say this for anybody who's worried that our manifesting forced somebody to do something they didn't want to do. Absolutely not. Always, we infuse our manifesting, our intention with, whatever is within the greater good, for our highest good, harming none, right? Because you don't want to force something to come about that isn't for somebody else's highest good. But you just want to put out there your understanding of what it is you think you would really like to bring into being as if it's already done, and trust that the universe can tweak it as it needs to make it good enough for everybody. So I want to say something else. So this house checked not only the most important things on our checklist, it didn't check everything. I did not believe we could find certain things in a certain price range in a certain time frame. We would have loved a pool. We did not get a pool. Totally fine. There were other things that I think the universe had a sense of humor about. I remember when we were first thinking about this house, I had seen the original listing from 7 years ago. And in my mind, I had thought, I almost hope this owner, the person who was the current owner at the time, didn't change any of the decor, because in my mind, I thought we would get a better price. So what's hilarious is that the owner did not change a thing about the decor, not a piece of wallpaper, not a paint color, not a doorknob, nothing. But we did not get this discount because it hadn't been updated. And you know what? This house definitely feels like it's, quote, of an era, as they say. That's a nice way of saying there are things that are dated or things that stylistically we would change. But you know what? Still grateful, still happy, still learning, because I still left out things on my list that I thought we could not get, even though I added a lot more in. So just a lesson to learn. So I want to talk now about what happens when you have manifesting missteps, right? Because, listen, there are things we didn't get. We wound up in another home that it was stressful to be in a place that we knew was temporary. But can I tell you, I have learned so much from being in that kind of limbo. So here are a few things I've learned, and maybe there are things in your life where you could say, oh, I look back and I get it now. And again, this could be a home, this could be a relationship, this could be a job. This could be for anything that you're like, oh, I pulled this in, but it's not exactly what I was looking for. Living in that transition period forced us to go through our stuff and donate or give away or just get rid of stuff that I don't just think it's a matter of literally cleaning things out. That's great. I think that is on a very practical, mundane level. But I think psychologically, emotionally, energetically, it's important periodically to say, what is it I really need? And what is it that I'm ready to release? When we do that in the physical way, I think it helps us release stuff on many other levels, right? So giving away stuff that you no longer need is cleansing. It can help somebody else and it can help you. So that was one thing. Another thing is that it taught us that if you are manifesting from a place of fear, that has a certain type of result. And again, I know it's so hard. I know it's so hard when you've got a lot on your mind and time pressure and stress and grief and all these other things. Yet another thing was we expanded our little pet family. Now, if anybody had said to me, you're going to have a few more kitties in your life, I would have been like, are you kidding? That there's no way that's a good idea. I definitely don't want that. And you know what? We had, we adopted out several kitties and we also added a few to our little family. And they have brought us so much joy. I can't believe how grateful I am for them. And we would not have had that happen had we been someplace else. These kitties were in this location and they taught us so much. I really think animals are our best teachers anyway. And it also just made me realize that God, of course I still have a lot of growing to do. Jason has growing to do. We all have growing to do. And the easy moments in our lives are wonderful, but we grow differently from them than we do when things are challenging. It's what it is. It's okay. So, and also just to be kind to myself, your feelings are your truth of the moment. Now, it doesn't mean that we aren't meant to work with them, but beating myself up for not feeling good about something that should feel good in my mind, that's not that helpful. So anyway, the summary is that we shifted our attitudes. We kept in mind this, it's equivalent or better. We can learn from times that don't go exactly as we want them to. I feel like the universe almost always has some sort of silver lining. No, I don't think manifesting is all about the universe being a magic gumball machine where you always get what you want. Again, we all have a path. We all have a life cycle. We were so fortunate again to have Loretta have all of these comebacks, but it was time to leave her body. She had a path. We weren't going to get these miracles forever. And that's part of our path too. Everything doesn't always work out exactly as we think it should or will or would or as we want, and that's okay. Another element is the hypnosis part, because the old stuff and the stuff in the background, the stuff in our subconscious is the harder stuff to shift, but you can shift it. How do you shift it? You get really clear consciously on what you want. Journaling can be really helpful for that. What is it that I want? Why do I want it? What's the essence of what I want? Because the particulars are great, but what is the essence? How do I want to feel? What is my day going to look like? How will I know when I have achieved or received this wonderful thing that I think would make my life better? Being receptive to receiving wonderful things, even if they're different from how we imagine. So again, letting go of that vice grip, practicing gratitude, even when things are difficult, hard, hard, hard. And if you really have a hard time getting into the space of imagining yourself stepping into the situation and being grateful for it before it happens, I get it. That's hard for all of us. But using the tool of, okay, even if there's a part of me, because your inner critic will always say, that's not possible, or that's not going to happen. Allow yourself to be involved in a beautiful daydream. Oh, well, what if? I wonder what. Some of you have heard one of my first interviews on this podcast with my friend Lana Young, who is an actor who is a successful working actor, has been on Law and Order, has been on WandaVision, has been in a Tyler Perry movie, has been in a number of plays. She's been on innumerable TV shows. And this is somebody who was in her 30s when she got involved in acting. And if you listen to that early episode, you can hear Lana talk about all of the barriers that she faced in a very literal and real way, and how she was able to shift to a mindset of joy and possibility and positive expectancy, expecting a great outcome. And honestly, she's an excellent manifester. She's one of the best manifestors I know. Truly. Another early episode is with DJ Prince Hakeem, and you can find that episode if you're so inclined. But this is somebody who has DJ'd everywhere, all over the world, has been on The View, has DJ'd at Carnegie Hall, has really expanded his world tremendously, even since we had that first interview. He's done an amazing job, and he fully understands the idea that he is co-creating his world, and it's paid off. And he's also just a really nice and happy and grateful person. So, right? Just allowing yourself to imagine, well, what if? What if it were possible? If I just allow it to be a beautiful daydream? You might be amazed at what that shifts. Now, I told you that I would share 2 manifesting hypnotic imagery audio programs that I use. I've actually used the same ones for years, and I have access, obviously, to innumerable types of hypnotic imagery and meditations and so forth. And I'll tell you the 2 I use most and why. The one I use the second most often is my own, and that's manifesting during deep sleep, and that's with Hay House. An alternate title, and I can't remember which one they use, is Manifesting Your Future Self During Deep Sleep, but it was one I developed on my own. Health Journeys had distributed it for a while, and now it's on Hay House, and it's in the top 20 pretty consistently. And I use it because it does foster deep sleep. I use a lot of hypnotic guided imagery, and I never hear anything past the first few minutes. But it really gets to work on that very subconscious part of you and sets the stage for an attitude of possibility. And I can't tell you the uncanny things that have happened when I've used that audio program. And I also sleep better and wake up refreshed. So that's an option, but you don't have to use mine. The other one I use if I'm going to take 32 minutes, because that's how long it is, to lie down. I know it's hard to do that in the middle of the day. You could do that before you go to bed if you want. But it's manifesting, and it's a HemiSync audio program. You know I have a few albums with HemiSync, but this one isn't mine. It's by Joe Gallenberger, who is a psychologist and an expert on manifesting. He talks a lot about psychokinesis and influencing matter with your mind. That's a whole other podcast episode. But I have used this, I'm going to say it's got to be for more than 10 years. My husband uses it. I've recommended it to friends, to patients. It works. I go so deep when I listen to this that the entire lengthy midsection of this audio program is something I don't hear at all. But I have to tell you, it's pretty remarkable. There isn't even that much verbal suggestion. It's there, but the hemisync brainwave entrainment, right? So it helps you get from a very normal, kind of focused, alert, awake state into something that is very deep. And it is at that level of awareness where I think magic takes place. So that's another one. It's great. I believe it's still on Apple Music. It is also available through HemiSync, and I can put the link in the show notes. And I would say a last thing is when you manifest something, not only should you set aside time to be very consciously grateful, because I feel like gratitude is just, we know from the psychology literature, it is absolutely beneficial to our emotional well-being, but I do think it also sets the stage for further positive manifestation. But keeping a journal also will remind you on those times when you're feeling like, oh, how do I know this is even real? When you're feeling really less optimistic, go back and look at your journal and look at the things you put out there. Look at the things you sought to manifest and be really specific. And then write down the date when these things come to pass. Because when you're feeling really pessimistic, this is going to be your evidence for, oh yeah, it works. And honestly, it does. And then the very last thing I want to say is that when there are things happening that are beyond our control and things that, of course, we would never want to draw to us that happen. Look, the world is a very challenged place. It always has been. It feels especially so now. The one thing we can choose or control to some extent is how we respond. That's not always going to feel of sufficient comfort. But I can honestly say that when we remember that, we can feel more empowered and more optimistic. We can breathe through things that feel really difficult, and we can recenter more easily. So let me know what you think of all this. But either way, thank you for listening. Please know that I wish you the very best now and always. And until next time, of course, be well.